I just woke up this morning. I decided to go on NFL site to see how Big Ben and Antonio Brown's injury is going to be for him being able to play against the Broncos on Sunday. And then I found out the shocker. The Rams and maybe the Chargers are going to move to LA this season. So after 22 years, the NFL is going to be in LA. Now, all the Rams fans in St. Louis and maybe all the Chargers fans in San Diego are going to be pissed off. Not to mention, the Raiders still have a shot if the Chargers don't take it in case their fans in Oakland would be pissed. So the Rams will be playing in Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum until 2019 when their new stadium will be built. And the Chargers can choose, they have up till next year to move. And if not, the Raiders have the chance to move. And the NFL is offering, I think it was $100 million to help fund new stadiums and shit for the Raiders and Chargers if they stay. Not to mention San Diego has offered $350 million as well to help rebuild a new stadium. Don't know anything about Oakland yet. So, what do I think about it? What do I think about a team going back to LA after 22 years? I don't like it. I think it's a terrible idea. Why? Why on earth would any team want to move back to LA? Don't you know the history? Every professional football league team, including the NFL's, that have been in LA, they have eventually either folded the first couple years, or they eventually moved out. Could there be a reason? Here, let me explain the history. Here is the history of every single team in LA that's played in the NFL. First, the Los Angeles Buccaneers, 1926. They eventually had to fold after 1 year. Why? Because Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, if it was around back then, or one of the major stadiums back then, the owners of the stadium would not allow an NFL team there because they did not want any professional football league team on their college stadium, so that didn't work. And then, of course, you got to also consider back then, the 20s, 30s, and 40s, there was no real good airline travel, so traveling across the country was not really so feasible as it is now, so of course that also explains some of it. Next, not NFL, but a league that eventually would merge somewhat into the NFL, the All-American Football Conference, the Los Angeles Dons, 1946 and 1949. Now, they folded because the league folded, so that's not necessarily Los Angeles' fault there. And the Dons, I just looked up, were the first ever professional football league team in LA, when they can back then finally play in Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. And they only could get 19,000 people in an over 80,000 seat stadium back then, so that shows the trouble that's going to come up later on. Then, the Los Angeles Rams from 1947 to 1995. Left Cleveland, came here, and spent almost the next 50 years here. But eventually, Los Angeles did not want them. They never really came to their games, even when they were good. And eventually, they moved to St. Louis next in 1995. And of course, now coming back this year. So, what the fuck? Then, the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFL. They played their first ever season in Los Angeles before they moved to San Diego. And gee, the Chargers actually made it to the first AFL championship that year. And yet, the next year they moved to San Diego. Ain't that something for your team to make it to the championship and move the next year? Ain't that a bad sign right there? And finally, and in my eyes the more infamous one, the Raiders. 1982 to 1994. Remember, Al Davis sued the NFL to move to Los Angeles because he thought it would be a bigger market than Oakland, and he eventually won and moved there, only to find out that, not really. And then 12 years later, he would move on out. The Raiders, who were a very good team back then, and remember, actually won a Super Bowl in their second year there, they most of the time would not even fill up, I think even half of the stadium, because it was just not that popular. Look guys, to put it simply, Los Angeles is just not a professional football league city. It's a college football city, with UCLA and USC. It's a basketball town, since the Lakers are the highest valued team in the league and they have a massive following. It may be a baseball team, since the Dodgers are the most valued team in the league, but I haven't yet seen any stats. The Los Angeles Galaxy and the MLS, they're the most valued team in MLS, but that doesn't necessarily mean Los Angeles is a soccer city yet. There's 2 NHL teams, although I'm still haven't looked up any stats on how big their following is. But 90 years now of NFL or professional football in Los Angeles, all of them pretty much left or folded afterwards. Isn't it obvious now that Los Angeles is just not a professional football city? This is stupid why the Rams are going back, and maybe the Chargers as well. And speaking of the Chargers, why would they want to go back? They've only played there one time in their first year in 1960. They've played every year since 1961 in San Diego. There's probably no fan base like huge in San Diego, Oakland. Los Angeles. If they're gonna have 2 teams in here, the Raiders would make more sense. They've played there longer than the Chargers. They played there more recently than the Chargers, and they have a bigger fan base than the Chargers in LA. So overall, I think this is a bad idea for the NFL to go back to LA, and probably within 20 to 30 years or something like that, the Rams and Chargers or Raiders will probably leave and go back to their old cities. At least the city of Los Angeles won't be hosed in terms of money, since the Rams owner is going to build that whole stadium with his money. So at least they're not going to be, the taxpayers won't be fucked over by it. So Rams fans and maybe Chargers or Raiders fans in LA, I hope you enjoy your team, because I don't think it's going to last that long.